My lords, my ladies, and my lovelies. Hello, I'm Kris Sihto. Welcome to Varthian. Now, today I said I was going to talk about my writing, so I'm going to talk about my writing process. I've seen a few things on Blue Sky just in the past couple of days that have been discussing whether it's okay to do world building and how much you need to plan your book for you to be a valid author or to have real writing. And I have opinions, so this may be a little bit of a ramble. I don't understand why people seem to think that there is a need to define these things, because what wins out in the end is that you actually put words onto the page. A writer writes. It doesn't need to be every day, it just needs to be regular. And if you are trying to write, I think it's important to make certain that you are taking your own habits into account. For example, I find that if I am strictly regimented into what I'm going to do, my brain rebels. I will eventually stop and just write nothing for years and set everything aside and not look at it, because it then falls into the too hard basket. I've seen people describe authors as either pantsers or planners. I'm definitely a pantser. I have no idea what's going to happen when I write. I just sit down and get surprised and excited by what's in the 2,000 words I've pumped out at the end of a 4-hour session. I have a vague idea of where I want to go, but it's definitely a very loose goal. Before I was a fiction writer, I was a poet. So this is a copy of a poetry book that I put out in 2018, Life Wires, under my poetry pen name of Kris Sihto. Unlike my fiction, this is definitely not child-friendly, thus the different pen name. And one of the most consistent questions that I get asked about my poetry, and now I'm seeing it coming up now that I'm writing fiction, is where I get my ideas from. I asked where my ideas come from, and the simple answer is I have no idea where I get my ideas from. They just arrive like unwanted visitors on the doorstep when your house is a mess. I carry a small book with me wherever I go, so that I can write down things. I have stopped my bicycle on the middle of a bridge so that I could write a poem, because that's where it happened. That's where the idea came to me, and I knew that if I didn't stop right then and there, that I wouldn't be able to continue. I wouldn't be able to get that back. So, it's a thing that happens in the brain and you don't know when it's going to happen. I do recommend for people that are trying to write, that have never done so, to read people who are writers writing about writing. And one of my favorite books that I can recommend for people to read is by Robert McKee. He's a director. It's called Story. I would show you the cover, except for the fact that I lent it to my daughter and she never gave it back. So I need to go out and buy myself another copy. But that's okay. I do tend to lend out good books to other people and never get them back. I somewhat expect that a good book has legs. It will visit many people if you don't chain it to the bookshelf. So it's always good to have another copy around. Story by Robert McKee. I will put a link to it in the info box down there. A lot of people will say that they've read Stephen King, on writing, and are trying to emulate what he does, because obviously he is successful at what he does. I read it and then immediately tried to forget everything that I read in there. I never recommend his advice. I'm not saying that Stephen King is a bad author or that he has bad advice on writing, but it doesn't work for me. He relies very much on Strunk and White's elements of style. This is a style guide that I don't at all favour. This is elements of style here. This is Chicago. These are both style guides. You can see the difference in content. I think that a lot of authors like Strunk and White's elements of style because it is thin. But I come from an editorial background and I dislike it for the exact same reason. In editing, there is a lot of "it depends" statements. And Strunk and White has a very all or nothing approach to writing, such as use active voice or omit unnecessary words. Passive voice has a place in writing. And so do those unnecessary words, especially, in my opinion, when creating character. Now, here in Australia, we have Style Manual. It is quite comprehensive. So it works whether you are writing fiction or non-fiction, if you are writing for a corporate setting, if you are writing for your own use. It's very comprehensive. I prefer the format in Chicago, but my ideal style guide would be Style Manual in the format of Chicago. But read widely on writing about writing from the perspective of authors in as many genres as you possibly can, and then make your own mind up, find your own groove. Some people need to plan all the time. If I did that, I wouldn't write, so I need to fly by the seat of my pants. I need to weave my stories as I go. The way I write is through my dreams. I think this is a bit foreign to some people, but it's not unknown. I believe Mary Shelley wrote Frankenstein from the basis of a dream. I have lucid dreams that are, they have very large narratives. They give me a very rich landscape to draw from. And when I set myself a goal of writing a book, I end up dreaming about those characters and creating the things that happen with those characters from dreams. I work very hard on my characters' reactions, and I get most of that content from dreams. I often have multiple narratives working at any one time. So in Dragon Silver, Wizard Gold, which is this book here, available from Amazon. In Dragon Silver, Wizard Gold, I am working with multiple timelines, jumping between past and present and weaving all of the storylines together from there. But in my second book, which is currently being written, I don't have that. Instead, I have perspective switching. So I am weaving the perspectives of all of these different characters together. And I'll have 3 or 4 main storylines, and I think of them being braided, making certain that I've got elements of each coming all the time into the main focus until it all comes together. My brain rebels at the idea of doing one single storyline. I need to switch between storylines. If I was writing from one perspective on one storyline all the time, I think I would need to have 3 or 4 different books on the go at the same time, because otherwise I just wouldn't be able to manage it. My brain needs to go to all of these other places. I also can't just start at the beginning and stop when it ends. I will sometimes write the ending first. I will have pivotal moments in my book that I write way ahead of time, and then I will headline them, chapter, question mark, question mark. because I won't know what chapter they will actually end up being. And then at some point I will just go, oh yeah, this is the right place. This fits. And I will insert it, and then I'll edit it to make sure that it fits with the narrative that's going on. Most other authors that I've talked to say that they basically start at the beginning and work until the end, but I can't do that. I'm a messy writer. Basically, I think that the entire gist of this rant today, if you are out there writing and you feel invalidated by something that somebody has said, like you're doing it wrong, consider that they might be the ones who are wrong. In the end, the author is the person that gets to the finish line. The author is the one who has a book at the end, no matter how you got there. I'm not saying that the person who has a book at the end is a good writer, but they are a writer. They are an author. Getting to that finish line is the goal. And if you can manage to get yourself to that point, you're doing it right. Don't let anybody tell you that you are authoring wrong. I'm not saying don't listen to an editor. Your editor will tell you how to fix your writing so that it's more pleasing to your audience. But that's not what makes you an author. What makes you an author is the hard yards you spent putting down the thing that you are writing onto a page. The number of people who never end up with a manuscript that is completed is far more than the number of people that actually finish a manuscript. You don't need to be a planner. You don't need to listen to people when they say, don't build worlds. I think every author builds worlds. You don't need to pay attention to the person that says authors need to write these specific words in this specific way. Get there however you can. Get there with your own voice. You may want to plan your way methodically. You may want to just write as you go, so long as it works for you. I think I will leave it there for today, because otherwise this rant will end up hours long. Remember to like and subscribe. I hope the rest of your day is enjoyable, and as always, be happy, be healthy, and I will see you next time.